Welcome to Shujin Academy VGM Club. I'm Professor Tom, your faculty sponsor. Now, everyone please rise for the playing of our national anthem. Today's opening theme is the Star-Spangled Banner from the arcade release of Double Dribble. Lyrics are from Francis Scott Key, set to the tune of composer John Stafford Smith's To Anacreon in Heaven, with arrangement for the arcade game performed by an unknown sound developer. It is December, and so it's the holiday season, and that means Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, Yule, Festivus, National Rhubarb Vodka Day, and also Christmas. Some of my fellow VGM podcasters are doing Christmas episodes, and I thought about doing one, but there were two issues. First, I don't know of that many good Christmas chiptunes, particularly good Christmas chiptunes that aren't going to be covered on another VGM podcast. Second, and more importantly, I hate Christmas. I grew up in a touristy town that goes really hard for Christmas, with lights and parades and a bunch of over-the-top crap. And in addition, I spent 3 years working as half the IT staff for a catalog company that did a massive amount of business from Christmas shopping. As a result of those two things, I am really not a huge Christmas guy. It's cool if you like Christmas, it's just not something I currently enjoy. Maybe one day my wife will be tragically killed in a hot chocolate factory explosion, and then a few years later I'll meet a single mom who's also an overworked big city lawyer that's come to town to sell her parents' Christmas tree farm, and we'll fall in love and discover the magic of the holiday, or something, but until my life looks like a Hallmark Channel Christmas movie, I am just not feeling Christmas. Anyway, I got to thinking about doing a Christmas episode, and somewhere along the line I was reminded of all the Christmas in July sales that I used to see on television as a kid, and then it hit me. If they can do Christmas in July, then I can turn things around and do the 4th of July in December. That's right, this episode is an all-American celebration of the United States of America. We're going to hear a bunch of patriotic VGM that'll stir our hearts and remind us why we love our country. Unless you're one of my listeners who's not in the United States, in which case you'll just hear some songs that are American-themed, even if most of them were actually put together by Japanese composers. The first thing that comes to mind when I think about America and video games is Guile from Street Fighter. Although he's hardly the only American in the series roster, he is a military man and he's the only American in the cast for whom patriotism is a notable trait. Also, his theme from Street Fighter II is excellent. There was even a meme for a while that said Guile's theme went with everything, and people would prove it by adding it to various videos. My favorite of these was the one that involved President Obama's speech about how we'd killed Osama bin Laden. I played the original version of Guile's theme from Street Fighter II back in episode 15, which was all about SF2 composer Yoko Shimomura, so I'm going to play a different version today. We'll start things with Combat and Service, which is the arrangement of Guile's theme used in Super Street Fighter II HD Remix. This arrangement was done by Big Giant Circles and Justin R. Coleman. But wait, there's more! I'm also going to play Plight, which is Guile's theme from the home console ports of Street Fighter Alpha 3, composed by Yuki Iwai. I've always really liked how the Alpha 3 soundtrack went in its own direction instead of revisiting Shimomura's iconic Street Fighter II themes. Let's hear some songs. While I'm on the subject of Capcom fighting games, Capcom vs. SNK 2 features a stage in New York City. It's on a rooftop, and your characters battle it out in front of a gigantic animatronic cowboy that's obviously intended to be an all-American beer company mascot. We know he's a beer company mascot because he's wearing a Stars and Stripes tank top that says, Johnny Beer and I love beer, and we know he's a cowboy because he's got a cowboy hat on. Could anything be more American? The song is called Stimulation, and it's by Satoshi Ise. Let's check it out now.
Listen closely, approach me, sucker closely. Those who try to treat me like greater than toast me impossible. I cut a sucker in small chunks, make more rhymes than Michael Jordan makes slams. I'm slow, prerogative. Mix the lyrics like the bass with the treble. Take a deep breath, getting funky as my lungs release a solid rhyme. Slack it, never stop so I continue on. With the first word is white, word is born. I made your imperfection out of indulgent fantasy. Take a mile and start. Like me. Listen closely, approach me. Sucker closely. Those who try to treat me like greater than toast me impossible. I cut a sucker in small chunks, make more rhymes than Michael Jordan makes slams. I'm slow, prerogative. Listen closely, approach me, sucker closely. Those who try to treat me like greater than toast me impossible. I cut a sucker in small chunks, make more rhymes than Michael Jordan makes slams. I'm slow, prerogative. Mix the lyrics like the bass with the treble. Take a deep breath, getting funky as my lungs release a solid rhyme. Slack it, never stop so I continue on. With the first word is white, word is born. I made your imperfection out of indulgent fantasy. Take a mile and start. Like me. Listen closely, approach me. Sucker closely. Those who try to treat me like greater than toast me impossible. I cut a sucker in small chunks, make more rhymes than Michael Jordan makes slams. I'm slow, prerogative. Listen closely, approach me, sucker closely. Those who try to treat me like greater than toast me impossible. I cut a sucker in small chunks, make more rhymes than Michael Jordan makes.
King of Fighters began life as a team-based fighting game with each team tied to a specific country, and the American team consisted of a basketball player, a boxer, and a football player. The team-based concept was kept, but the series abandoned the idea of using teams to represent countries with its first sequel, and so it became a joke within the series lore that the American team had their tournament invitations stolen every year. Anyway, the American team song is called SLUM No. 5, and it is fantastic. I played the original SLUM No. 5 from King of Fighters 94 back in episode 7, which was the series' retrospective episode, and the American sports team came back for King of Fighters 98, so I'm going to play the King of Fighters 98 remix of SLUM No. 5 here. The original song was composed by Masahiko Hataya, and it was rearranged for KOF 98 by Hideki Asanaka, Marimo, and Yasuo Yamate. Enjoy! Captain America is one of my two favorite characters in the Marvel Universe. I love the fact that Cap represents America at its best, and the way he inspires others towards those same ideals. I also love the way he does that while still being able to acknowledge the ways that we fail those ideals, because that's the difference between clear-eyed patriotism and empty nationalism. I think his best video game appearance was in Captain America and the Avengers, a 4-player arcade game from the early 90s. I'm going to play the Stage 1 theme and the Stage 5 theme from this game. These songs were composed by Tatsuya Kiuchi and Tomoyoshi Sato, and they do a great job of feeling hopeful, determined, and upbeat, like Captain America himself. One of the things about the United States is how absolutely huge it is. I've driven across large portions of this country, and we have a big car culture here, so much so that it's virtually impossible to get by without owning a car in most of the country. Because of this, a lot of driving games feature various real or fictional locales in the United States for tracks. I'm going to play several different songs from racing games, starting with Las Vegas from Top Gear, also known as Top Racer outside of North America. The Vegas track has you driving through the desert, and the amazing soundtrack from Scottish composer Barry Leitch is wonderfully kinetic. Let's check it out! And now for a word from our sponsor. This episode of Shujin Academy VGM Club is brought to you by America's new favorite murderous game show, Smash TV!
Yeah!
Nothing's more American than a combination of crass consumerism and wanton violence, and Smash TV gives you all of that and more!
I'd buy that for $1!
Watch contestants fight and die!
Woo!
For the chance to win big money, VCRs, toasters, and more!
Big money! Big prizes! I love it!
Don't miss a minute of the action!
Good luck! You'll need it!
Now, back to the show. Way back in episode 2, which was all about Sega arcade games with elaborate cabinets, I featured a song from Radmobile, a racing game about driving across the United States from Los Angeles to New York City that's also known for being the very first appearance of Sonic the Hedgehog. Radmobile's soundtrack is excellent, and one of the songs you hear on your cross-country drive is Soup Up from composer Kazuhiko Nagai. Here it is! Another Sega arcade game about driving across America is Turbo Outrun, a sequel to the original Outrun that isn't quite as well remembered as the original, in much the same way as Leonardo da Vinci's other paintings aren't quite as well remembered as the Mona Lisa. While Turbo Outrun's soundtrack doesn't always hit the legendary highs of the original game's tunes, it does feature a standout song in Russia difficulty, a very kinetic song from composer Yasuhiro Takagi that feels as fast-paced as a real cross-country race. Quirky Super Nintendo RPG Earthbound eschews the traditional fantasy settings of its genre for the modern world, and most of the game is set in a country called Eagle Land that is obviously an affectionate pastiche of the United States. Its soundtrack is heavily influenced by American pop music, particularly Brian Wilson's work, both as a solo artist and with the Beach Boys. It's said that the first record from the Velvet Underground only sold 50,000 copies, but every person who bought it went on to start a band, and Earthbound is similar. It sold less than 200,000 copies in the United States, but it sometimes feels like every single person who bought it went on to become an indie developer or a gaming content creator of some sort. Needless to say, it's got some songs that sound like America. I'm going to play 2 songs from this game. First, it'll be Theme of Onett, which is the song for the small town where the game starts, and then Theme of Fourside, which is the game's version of New York City. Both were composed by Keiichi Suzuki. So far, every single song I've played on this episode was composed by someone who wasn't actually an American. Even the tune for the Star Spangled Banner was written by a British guy. That means it's time for some actual Americans to weigh in on how America should sound, so next up is America, the Industrial Era, from Civilization VI, composed by Jeff Knorr. It's based on Hard Times Come Again No More, an 1854 song composed by Stephen Foster, who's one of the quintessential American songwriters. This arrangement is a majestic tune that really sounds like the American Gilded Age. The song captures the way we Americans see ourselves. Let's listen. That's the show. If you want to reach me, you can email me at Shujin Academy VGM Club at gmail.com. Find my channel on YouTube by searching for Shujin Academy VGM Club, or use the link in the show notes. You can find me on Mastodon at Shujin Academy VGM Club at mastodon.coffee. I'm active on Tumblr at shujinacademyvgmclub.tumblr.com and on Instagram at Shujin Academy VGM Club. I can also be found on Discord as Professor Tom7512. Please leave me a 5-star rating on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you're finding this episode. Look for new episodes on Thursdays whenever I get them done, which is typically once or twice a month. Special thanks for this episode goes out to fellow VGM podcaster Jameson of Bar Silence Podcast for contributing cover art. You can and should find Bar Silence Podcast wherever you download podcasts, and check out his website at barsilence.com. Special thanks also goes out to fellow podcaster Drew Mackey of Singing Mountain for influencing my podcast in general and this episode in particular. He did an episode called What Does America Sound Like that shares a couple of tracks with my playlist, and that episode was an inspiration for this one. I'll link to it in the show notes. Drew had the idea to use fighting games to explore Americana long before I did, so he deserves credit for originating the idea. I've got one more song to play us out, and it's the ending theme from the American release of the arcade version of Bad Dudes vs. Dragon Ninja, composed by Asuza Hara and Hiroaki Yoshida. You get to hear this song after your bad dude defeats the Dragon Ninja and rescues President Ronnie.
Dad!
What?
It's Christmas! You have to play a Christmas song!
I don't have to play a Christmas song. It's my show. I can play whatever I want.
If you don't play at least one Christmas song, Santa will come down our chimney and set Mom on fire.
That feels pretty intense.
Don't mess with Santa, he'll make you pay.
Okay, we'll play one Christmas song. This is one of the very few Christmassy VGM songs that I like. It's called Chocobo's Happy Christmas, and it's a Christmas-styled arrangement of Nobuo Uematsu's Chocobo theme, done by Masashi Hamauzu.
Yay!
Happy holidays, everyone, and thanks for listening. I'm Professor Tom, and I'll see you next time on Shujin Academy VGM Club.